Welcome to All Things Moore County, Moore County's weekly radio show highlighting the many facets of the Sandhills. That includes real estate, lifestyle, community and neighborhoods. And now, from 4 Properties, here's your host, Bill Sahadi.
Good morning and welcome to the talk show, All Things Moore County. Dorothy, it doesn't seem like January because we're so busy with different shows, people from different walks of life.
One of the busiest Januaries we've had in a while.
It is. It really is. And I was very fortunate to hear from my guest for the hour, Samantha Patterson. Samantha started a company called Peaceofmindaging Consulting. And, you know, we live in an area where we have 5 generations living fully in Moore County. And just coming off the holiday season, families get together, grandparents, parents, grandchildren, sometimes even great-grandchildren.
Yep.
And there are so many reasons in Moore County for people to look for downsized living, sometimes assisted living, sometimes decisions that people have to make when their children don't live here but maybe live elsewhere. And that's kind of where Samantha comes in. So I wanted to, I'm so glad that you came to join us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Bill. I'm happy to be here.
Well, Peaceofmindaging Consulting is, I like the name of the company. And we have different agencies and different companies in Moore County, but yours is more of a consulting business, is it not?
That is correct, yes.
Cliff Notes version, Peaceofmindaging Consulting does.
We provide guidance and support to people who are navigating challenges with their aging loved ones.
Health issues come into play. Living independently comes into play?
Absolutely. Almost anything that you can think of. Challenges with being able to remain safely in their homes. Challenges of quality of life. Perhaps the aging loved one is socially withdrawn or not engaging in the ways they used to.
Right.
Perhaps there is a disability or illness that's impacting that person's ability to engage in their lives with the optimal independence and quality of life. Or perhaps a caregiver is seeking support and guidance if the caregiving situation is no longer sustainable, or maybe the aging loved one is needing additional care and services. I like to tell families, reach out to me with any concerns you have, and I can tell you what I can do to help.
Would one of them be bill paying, things that perhaps some people maybe not be able to do on their own like they used to?
Absolutely. That would be considered, of course, you are aware I have a background in occupational therapy.
Right.
And that is what the experience that guides my advising of these families. Any activity that someone would do on a daily basis or maybe frequently, something like bill paying and medication management,
Right.
managing health appointments or health conditions, any situation where someone needs some guidance, these are things that I can advise regarding.
And I'm asking the question, I'm not saying this is true, but when somebody gets widowed, or there's a widower, and they're alone, that creates a whole new set of challenges, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I've had many clients where that is actually what guides families to Peaceofmindaging Consulting is the loss of a spouse can exponentially increase challenges about navigating being in the community or independence with daily tasks.
So how do people find you? Is it on a referral basis? Is it through different agencies in the community?
Well, I started this business a year ago.
Right.
So initially, and it was word of mouth. So of course,
That's perfectly
yes,
good.
Initially, people close to me knew the service that I was providing, and when they overheard someone talking about the challenges they were having, they would refer them to me. And since then, it's grown into, of course, I have a social media presence. I have an Instagram and a Facebook, and I post on there frequently I even have a blog through my website where I post content related to promoting independence for older adults and the services we provide. So at this point, most of people that find me are finding me through social media.
And what percentage of your consulting, once you have that initial contact, is done with the individual themselves, or perhaps their children who don't perhaps live here?
Yes, so often the family members of the aging loved ones are adult children.
Right.
So that's the majority of my clients are adult children who are doing their best to promote the safety and independence of their aging loved ones, some of whom live with them, some of whom are in a living situation that is not seeming to be optimal, where they have concerns about the person struggling with their daily tasks. But there have been people that have reached out to me directly, older adults themselves who are wanting support and resources to promote their ability to either return to their homes or remain safely in their homes, what we call aging in place. And so there have been people that are seeking services for themselves, for their spouses, for their parents, or even for their grandparents. I've had clients that are grandchildren as well that are looking for guidance.
How does your occupational therapist background help you? Were you focused on senior citizens in that role, or did it just evolve? Yes.
So I decided to pursue a career in occupational therapy when I was still a teenager. So it's been a really lifelong passion. And even before that, I used to volunteer with older adults even as a child. We would adopt grandparents from local nursing homes and go visit with them and bring them gifts and flowers and spend quality time.
Where did that come from?
My mother.
Why?
My mother always has had a focus on service and being of service to others. And I don't know exactly what inspired her to promote our engagement with older adults, but it is something that I actively talk about currently. I just posted on Instagram the other day the importance of involving your children with your aging loved ones. So that's so I will say I've had a lifelong passion of helping older adults, but occupational therapy became my mission when I observed my grandfather undergoing occupational therapy in rehab after he had pneumonia. And I decided then and there that was the field for me. So I pursued a master's degree from the University of Chapel Hill in occupational therapy. And then I moved to this area directly following that.
And that was about 10 years ago?
Over 10 years ago, yes. And so I think it would be helpful for listeners for me to define and describe what it is that occupational therapists do.
Yeah.
Because that is really what informs my background as an aging consultant. So occupational therapists focus on improving the lives of people they work with, anyone throughout the lifespan, from neonatal babies all the way through end-of-life care.
Right.
We promote fulfilling and independent lives through the therapeutic tool of occupations. And occupations can be described as meaningful tasks or things that people want and need to do. So earlier when you were asking about bill management, for instance, that is an occupation.
Okay.
Dressing is an occupation. Sewing or going out into the community, grocery shopping, all of those can be defined as occupations. So working with older adults as an occupational therapist, we're typically focused on the challenges that accompany aging. So we're promoting independence and safety with daily tasks or occupations for people who may have, let's say, difficulties with their balance and mobility, or chronic illnesses that impact one's ability to tolerate long periods of time standing up, or whatever it may be that's impacting their independence. And we, occupational therapists, we view problems in three different ways, together and separately. We look at the person. Mm-hmm. So what is this person's strengths, abilities, skills? What are their resources? And what is this person's impairments? What are their illnesses or
hindrances?
That's right. What are their hindrances? And that's one thing to consider. And then as an occupational therapist, you'd be directly working to improve those impairments on the person. But also, you're looking at the environment. What are the supports and hindrances of the environment? What are elements of this person's home that are making it more difficult for them to do their occupations or daily tasks independently? That might be an example of intervening in the environment would be installing grab bars in the bathroom so that someone with balance impairments can hold on, steady themselves.
Right.
Or even for someone with low vision, an environmental modification would be increasing the contrast of colors within the home environment. So for instance, if someone goes to brush their teeth, if you have a dark colored toothbrush on the white sink, they're more likely to be able to see it, pick it up to brush their teeth. So that's an environmental modification. So I mentioned the person, the environment. The last focus that we would have is on the occupation itself. So is there a way that the older person could do this task differently, and then they would be able to do it independently?
Okay.
And that's where assistive devices, adaptive equipment can come into play, where perhaps this person isn't currently able to cook, but if they were able to do certain elements of the task seated, or if we modified the cabinets where the things they need to be able to reach, they can safely reach, and well, that would actually be an environmental modification. But yes, we can train people to do a task differently, and then they can be independent. So that was quite the long answer.
Well, that's okay.
But there's so many ways that my occupational therapy background informs how I view problems when working with older adults.
So when you walk into a household, you're like a walking MRI machine, aren't you?
Yes.
Where you're assessing the entire environment. You probably observe the individuals very closely.
Yes.
You take a tour of the house and try to, in your brain, you process everything. So you have a perspective that, like when you were mentioning the dark colored toothbrush on a white sink, that's above my pay grade. I would never think of that.
Right. And that is absolutely why Peace of Mind Aging Consulting is different than other consulting agencies, is the fact that I have a background in occupational therapy, and I am able to see things and evaluate problems in a way that someone else does not have the experience and background and skills and training to be able to do.
As I'm listening to you, your credibility comes shining through. You don't take what you do lightly. I can, in between the lines, you really assess an entire environment, and then you start to make recommendations.
Yes.
Okay.
And that would be the comprehensive assessment, which is a service I offer within Peace of Mind Aging Consulting, is an assessment that happens within the home, where, like you said, I'm just collecting information, things that other people may not be able to see, not just because, let's say, someone that's not an occupational therapist may have difficulty assessing the whole situation, but family members who have grown up around these people who are familiar with the space, there may be things, blind spots that someone would never think to notice or see or remark on, because that's just the way it's always been.
Right.
And a third party, especially someone that is trained in how to assess situations, can be more effective in picking out little changes that can make a really big difference in someone's ability to remain at home, if that's the goal, to remain at home.
Dorothy, I'm taking notes. Are you? I mean, this is you're. Tell me something. your mother,
Yes.
you are a caregiver for her, are you not?
Yes.
But she doesn't live near you.
No, she lives about 4 hours away.
So you have to do a lot of the things that Samantha's talking about, huh?
Yes, I do.
To make sure that when you leave, I mean, do you have a lot of guilt when you leave?
Yes, I do have a bit of guilt about leaving her so far away, but I can't get her to move any closer.
She's stubborn like you, right?
Yeah, pretty
Okay.
much.
We're gonna come back in the second set. I have a couple of questions I want to ask you. I'm very glad that you're here. Our guest for the hour is Samantha Patterson, and the name of the company is Peace of Mind Aging Consulting. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our second set of All Things Moore County. Samantha Patterson is our guest. She started a company called Peace of Mind Aging Consulting. She's based here in Moore County. She's been a Moore County resident for just about 10 years. And your foray from occupational therapy into consulting, my guess is you're very cerebral and you think and you process a lot of information. And you don't make decisions lightly. That's my guess. So what was it about occupational therapy and that background that guided you towards semi-stepping out of it into a consulting company?
Yes, that's a great question, and you're very perceptive. I very much am always critically evaluating
Yep.
what I'm seeing and
Yep.
problem solving through situations. So, working in occupational therapy, I'm sure you can tell it's a passion of mine. It's something
I can tell.
it's something I very much believe in, and I continue to believe in occupational therapy. I certainly use the tools all the time throughout my consulting. But my transition into consulting really stemmed from a gap that I noticed in services throughout my 10 years. So occupational therapy is covered by Medicare mostly, and then
Right.
supplemental plans as well.
Right.
And so you're following the guidelines of what Medicare will pay for, including being under a doctor's supervision. It's also directly working with the older adult. And so you're providing direct services. Family caregiving can be an element of occupational therapy, but Medicare or any insurance Medicare Advantage plans, they want you to be directly one-on-one working with the older adult, which I very much enjoy. But the gap, given that model, there are so many people that are seeking support for their aging loved ones who may not be at all willing to participate in occupational therapy or other therapies for that matter. There are older adults who may not see the value or benefit in participating in therapy.
And they're set in their ways.
That's right. Or they truly believe there's not going to be any change that can occur. Or even there are people that have a level of cognitive impairment where they are not aware that they have deficits. So they may be in what a family member considers to be a very unsustainable living situation, or needing assistance with hygiene or daily activities, safety concerns, but that person themselves are not open and willing to receiving direct occupational therapy services. There are also people who don't qualify for therapy, people that are receiving hospice services. Sometimes the hospice organization will not authorize therapy to be involved. And there are insurance companies are more and more restricting how much therapy someone can receive. There may be a capped number of visits. There may be visits that therapists request and are denied. So increasingly, therapy can't be the answer for every family, and it's not even set up in a model where the support, the needs of the caregivers and the family systems and the next steps even are not necessarily on the forefront of the equation. So throughout noticing these gaps, I decided to start Peace of Mind Aging Consulting, where I can work directly with families. These may be, like I mentioned before, spouses, adult children, grandchildren. It could be the older adult themselves or a friend or neighbor, somebody that's having a concern about an aging loved one. And I can meet with the family and come up with solutions based on all the experience I have, not only clinically, not only medically, my awareness of the aging process, of common disabilities, injuries, illnesses, beyond my actual clinical background. I've worked in many of the facilities within Moore County personally, so I have experience in different healthcare settings as well. Skilled nursing facilities, home health, hospital, outpatient, independent living, assisted living, memory care. I've been within all of them, many within the same company even. So I understand if a loved one is going through a challenging process, maybe navigating being in rehab or trying to mitigate the difficulties of being in the hospital or working through these crises that can happen. Not only do I have the medical background and understanding of the health processes that are going, I also understand the systems. And I know the buildings inside and out from having worked personally in many of them within Moore County. So I came to realize that I had a lot to offer families.
Right.
That really, within the medical model, I really couldn't effectively reach these families. So I took a step out and am doing much more than I was able to do.
And one of the questions I was going to ask you was about insurance, because I would think that one of the first questions you get is, are the services that you offer and the perspectives, is there insurance coverage for that?
I do not operate under insurance because I'm not providing occupational therapy services directly to clients. Now, if I have a client, I always start with a free initial consultation for any client. So if someone came to me...
I'm sure you do.
Yes.
I can, yeah, okay.
So if somebody comes to me, the initial consultation is free. If someone was to come to me and say, I really am needing help modifying my loved one's home to promote their independence and but I don't have necessarily funds, it needs to be covered by insurance, I will, for that free consultation, I can refer them to an occupational therapist who's covered under insurance through home health if they qualify that, for instance. So if they need, I can refer people to services that are covered by insurance, and I often do.
But what does the client lose by working under the umbrella of insurance coverage?
I find that it's more of an and than an or. So you can work with me consulting through all of these processes that are important to understand and be working with doctors and receiving therapy services and receiving palliative care services and receiving chronic care management services. There are so many incredible services within the community that can be covered by insurance, and I refer people to those programs.
Okay.
So I want people to receive all the access to the services that can be beneficial for them. But what I'm able to provide beyond that, because like I said, it's more of an and than an or, is I can be a secure, compassionate, active listening soundboard with a lot of experience who knows how to navigate all of these systems together to promote an optimal situation for the aging loved one. So I'm a person that you can call and say, I'm overwhelmed. I've been working, my loved one has been working with this agency, and I'm still feeling like we're not, connecting all the dots of what could improve this situation. And then that's where I come in. I can consult and advise and say, have you tried this? This is an option you may not be aware of. Let's work together and solve whatever problem the person may be having.
Okay. So what is the litmus test for measuring your success with individuals? Is it functionality? When you walk away from a client after spending time with them, how do you measure, or how do let's say the children of the senior adult measure the success?
I would say answering as an aging consultant,
Yeah.
I would say I'm looking at relationships within the family system improving. So I want not only the older adult to be having an improved quality of life, but I'm also looking at the relationship between the older adult and the family caregiver to be one that is improved and mended as well. Because so often there can be conflicts laden within an older adult who may need some level of assistance and a family caregiver who wants to do everything they can to help. But of course, caregivers are so often completely overwhelmed and also consumed with guilt about not doing enough when you're actually doing more than you really have to give. So I would say success to me, it's all wrapped up in quality of life.
Okay.
But I view it as a more family systems than individual model. So kind of looking at the entire situation.
All the interrelationships.
Yes, all the interrelationships. Improving everyone's quality of life and engagement. Because what it's all about is people showing up for life, participating in their lives, and enjoying it. And that goes for everyone, the aging loved one and the concerned family members. They're all part of that.
You do what we do in our business, and that is managing people's expectations. Right?
Yes.
From the get-go.
Yes.
Right. Not just the subject, but the family members around the subject,
Yes.
so that they have realistic expectations. Okay.
Yes, that is a really good point. And that's something that I bring to the table working with families. At times, I have to be a reality check.
Yes.
So it's not all, of course, optimism and hoping for everything to work out and have a tight, neat little bow on it. Of course, that's ideal. But so often I'm also describing some of the pitfalls of the healthcare field. So, telling a family member what you're experiencing is the most common experience because of limitations within this system. So, of course, like you said, there's definitely managing expectations involved as well.
Something tells me you're allergic to drama. Right? You have to be. You have to be able to see straight through so that everyone, it's almost like you're driving the bus and you have all these passengers on the bus, and you have to take them through the bad weather, you have to take them through the bumps in the road, and you have to keep them highly focused on the goal.
Yes, I would say there's a lot of active listening.
I bet.
So if someone is feeling, let's say there's anger is an emotion that's expressed, I am listening and allowing that person. I provide emotional support as well. In fact, that's one of the more rewarding aspects of my job. So I'm emotionally supporting, but then I'm listening for, what is the feeling behind this anger? Is it guilt? And the emotions are being expressed as anger. Is it fear that your loved one doesn't have what they need? Is it resentment because you are navigating a situation that you don't have full control over? So I would say I try to get to the root of what is causing the emotion and go from there.
Samantha Patterson is our guest. The name of the company is Peace of Mind Aging Consulting. We'll come back in the third set. This is All Things Moore County. Welcome back to our final set of All Things Moore County. Samantha Patterson is our guest. Peace of Mind Aging Consulting is her business. I want to read, if I can, just real quickly, a Google review that you received recently. Peace of Mind Aging Consulting was referred to me at a time when I honestly was overwhelmed and didn't know where to turn for help. Samantha helped make sense of our situation and the options that were possible. She was a compassionate and caring support during a difficult time of decision-making. I couldn't have done it without her. My sense is that these things mean as much to you as anything, the testimonials.
Absolutely. That just fills my heart when
Right.
I hear feedback like that, because that is why I'm doing what I'm doing. That is what Peace of Mind Aging Consulting is all about.
You said you from the time you were in high school, you knew you wanted to go into occupational therapy and the field where you are today with the aging consulting. I'm not 100% clear. Yes, your mother was an influence,
Yes.
but what else? There's got to be something else that had you on the same track from such a young age.
Well, I've always been certain, excellent question. I've always been certain that I wanted to help people. That's been very clear to me. I'm an empathetic spirit. I care deeply about others. So that's part of it. But I do think there's an element of rooting for the underdog, if you will. So often I find that the needs and desires and even participation of older adults within culture is stifled or ignored or not seen as valuable. I'm not sure. I think it's somewhat particular to American culture because there are other cultures where older adults are more deeply revered and cared about. But I just want to, I've always just wanted to be a source of change in that way. And I think it's important that people understand that they matter and they value and they have value and their lives are important and quality of life matters. And I think maybe from a young age, I could tell that that wasn't a priority necessarily for the masses at times. And I wanted to make it a priority of mine.
Did you have a very close relationship with your grandparents?
I did. They never lived within the same state as us, so we were always seeing them once or twice a year, and I definitely had close relationships with them.
Yeah.
They are all people I deeply miss.
So, okay, I mean, I get how passionate you are about what you do. That comes through loud and clear. You must have a team behind you of people that in the practices that you've been in for 10 years?
Yes.
Okay. You must have like a Rolodex in your head of agencies and services that you are probably in a very good position to recommend and to serve people.
Yes, absolutely. And that really inspired me starting this company as well, is not only did I have experience directly working with older adults, but I do have a toolkit of people, of communities, of services within this area that are just incredible. The leadership within this area, focusing on the needs of older adults, is incredible. It's such a wonderful place to age and retire and grow older. There are so many incredible services within this community, and I am growing in my partnerships all the time, learning of new organizations. In fact, if you're listening and you are an agent of change within the older adult community in Moore County, please reach out to me as well. I'd love to connect with you.
Wow. I mentioned Abby Lopez at the beginning of the show. She's just got out of Duke. She was a guest this summer, occupational therapist. She has, you both have a lot in common in terms of your heart, and it just, people are transparent. You can tell if people are about themselves or if they're about others, and that is a message I get from Abby. It's certainly the message that I get from you, because it's all about the greater good, and your arms are open. They're not, you're not being held back by insurance restrictions. You're not being held back. You can be creative.
Yes.
And have a freedom to do what you know is going to work for people.
Yes, absolutely. So well said.
Right?
Yes, thank you.
Well, it comes across. The people that you work with primarily, are you contacted by the children primarily of the parent or the parents in question?
I have been contacted by many different concerned parties of older adults.
Okay.
I would say primarily it's adult children of aging parents, but I've also been contacted by grandchildren, friends, sisters, neighbors, brothers, spouses, and even the older adults themselves have reached out looking for solutions and guidance. So it's truly been all over the map.
So they come into town, perhaps, if they're not local, and you'll meet with them. You'll have an initial consultation?
Yes, the initial consultation is free, but that usually happens over the phone. So I am able to work with family members if, let's say, they're out of state, or even if they're older adults, the loved ones are out of state. We can do the consultations over the phone or over Zoom. I can also meet in person, and I'm happy to, but whatever makes sense for the client is what we'll do.
We had a guest on a couple of weeks ago, Jenna Chopping. Jenna runs and owns Caring Hearts for Canines.
Oh, yes, I've heard of that.
She is, right, and she's very passionate. And we hear so many people talk about the value of owning a pet and caring for, because sometimes there's social isolation, which you probably have to come up against a lot.
Yes, absolutely. I do have a lot of clients who will come to me with concerns about social isolation of the older adult. Right. And of course, with clients, I would dive headfirst into how to ameliorate that challenge.
Good word.
Thank you.
You never hear that word, but I like that word.
SAT words. But yes, there is usually a reason for that. And there are barriers to engagement within the community for older adults that can be bridged. Sometimes it could be an aging person's, perhaps they've been having some changes in their cognition and they're isolating because certain tasks are more challenging. Perhaps there's a transportation challenge.
What if they lose their driver's license?
Oh, absolutely. That happens quite
eyesight,
often.
right.
Yes. So my goal with families, and that is absolutely so pivotal to quality of life, is social integration.
Right.
In fact, there's studies that show that one of the primary top indicators of mortality risk is social isolation, above, smoking, above obesity, above all these other things you would think about.
I believe it.
Yeah, so being interconnected within the community is absolutely paramount to quality of life, and there are solutions to the barriers of older adults engaging within the community.
There was an article in a pilot back in August of 2024, Make Informed Decisions with Peace of Mind Aging Consulting. And there was a picture of you speaking with, a child of a parent in front of the First Bank concert site down in downtown Southern Pines.
Yes.
And it's a great article. People can go back and search it if they wanted to pull it up. I'm sure you have it posted on your social media.
Yes.
So, share with me a success story. Share with me something that you're you're proud of, that you feel accomplished.
Yes, I'm happy to. One story that comes to mind is, it's not necessarily a standout in the sense that it's deeply unique and mind-blowing, but more so because this is kind of a typical story of situation in which I've helped a family. So I had a client who, her father lived with her. Her aging loved one was her father. And she was growing increasingly concerned about him being isolated at home while she went to work. And so she reached out to me initially just wanting some assistance and guidance in finding a caregiver who would match her schedule and what she was looking for. But upon speaking with her and diving deeper and asking some questions, it became clear that she had not gone on a vacation or traveled or done anything for herself in actual years, because she had a lot of guilt about leaving him by himself, and he wasn't in a he wasn't able to travel with her. And in fact, he had been spending more and more time in bed, and his health was really declining. And so not only was I able to assist her in securing a caregiver situation that was really worked for everybody, but I also helped her to take that next step, and she started engaging within caregiver support groups. Oh. And she also, I helped connect her with a wonderful facility that offers respite care. so that she was able to connect with them. And I gave her tools to speak with her father about this. And it went much better than she thought it was going to. He was pleased and relieved even that there was going to be some additional care for him. And the last I heard, he was excited and looking forward to his 2-week stay at a local retirement community for respite care. And she's going to Germany with her brother.
Wonderful.
And
she got that vacation.
yes, and she also, she expressed to me how much of a relief it was to hear someone validate, her emotional experience of caring for her father as well. And I helped both of them improve their relationship and put more structures and support in place.
Yeah.
So that would be kind of a typical situation.
You have a very broad skill set. Part of what you do is also psychological.
Yes.
And having to understand people's emotions, their motivations, not their emotions, to understand their motivations.
Yes.
But it's not always readily apparent what those motivations are.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
So, I mean, you're operating on like multiple levels.
Yes.
Right?
That's why it can be hard to explain sometimes when people ask, well, what do you do? And I'll give the broad overview. I guide families who are navigating challenges of elder care. But the better way to discover what I do is reach out to me and sign up for the free initial consultation, because the ways in which I can help you are very tied to what the problems are. What are the issues that are needing solution, and then that's when I can really share with you what I'm able to do.
People can reach you. You have your website, peaceofmindagingconsulting.com. Fairly intuitive.
Yes.
Right?
The name of the company.
You'd be surprised how many websites are not intuitive.
Yes.
But www.peaceofmindagingconsulting.com. And do you want to share a phone number where they can reach you?
Yes. The phone number is 910-585-6656. And do I have time to share what services that we offer as well?
By all means.
So with Peace of Mind Aging Consulting, we always start with the free initial consultation where we can explore what the challenges are and come up with some plans of what we would do moving forward. At this point, I would explain my services, and we'd set a date for the personalized consultation. So that's the next step. For the personalized consultation, there is a flat fee which covers all the time that it takes for us to discuss in depth what the issues are, what the challenges are, what the resources are, really just allowing me to interview them and gather all the relevant information. And then I create a care plan. So I write up actionable next steps, which may include referrals to other organizations as well. It could be referring to caregiving organizations, or even education strategies and education regarding how to effectively care for someone with, let's say, dementia or with this chronic illness. So it's informative, and it has action steps of these are the steps you can take. And then after that, we can continue consulting. It's just an hourly rate. So we could even have a 15-minute phone call, and that's how the consultations work on an ongoing basis. I also can provide comprehensive assessments. That would be the in-home guidance, where I can assess the aging loved one and the home situation, and also write up a care plan with that information as well. And then the last service is actually a free service due to the partnerships within the community. If your aging loved one is looking or wanting to look for assisted living, independent living, or memory care, I can help in that process as well, making all the steps easier along the way, comparing costs, quality, availability, amenities, recommending which setting based on your aging loved one's factors. And that's a free service because facilities within the area are partnering with Peace of Mind Aging Consulting to allow me to provide this service at no cost to families.
You're very impressive. Samantha Patterson, the name of the company is Peace of Mind Aging Consulting. I love your heart.
Oh, thank you.
And you know what? Other people will too if they get a chance to sit down with you, eyeball to eyeball, and talk as well, whether it be Zoom or whether it be in person.
Yes.
Thanks so much for coming in. Peace of Mind Aging Consulting. Hope to see you down the road.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. This is All Things Moore County. Have a great week. Thank you.